Hi, everyone. If you are joining today, we are going to be talking about the new Microsoft Planner. Let me get my slideshow all ready to go. Can you all see my screen? I'm sharing some PowerPoint slides.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. I don't know if Molly Yannis will be joining today. She is also worked a lot on Microsoft and on all the different new features that have been rolling out. So if she's able to jump on, that's great. But otherwise, I will be presenting. You can see actually on this first slide, I've put some logos of the various Microsoft apps, but I'm sure everyone has been hearing about or been interacting with Microsoft maybe for negative reasons in the last week with the outage, but there's also some positive updates and exciting new stuff that's rolling out, which is what we're going to focus on today. Quick just overview about me and Molly and about us at Echolocity. We did recently rebrand from Echo Consulting to Echolocity. I might say Echo for short a lot of the time. But we were founded in 2019. Molly Yannis was the founder and CEO. We do project management solutions and software implementations with a lot of different tools and platforms. Microsoft 365, Teams, Smartsheet, the Power Platform in Microsoft, Monday.com, Airtable, and a bunch more. I am the Microsoft practice lead with Echo, and we became a Microsoft partner officially this year too. So that has been exciting. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you might have seen I'm posting a bunch on various certifications and trainings and things that I have been getting really leveled up on. So it's been a fun time for me and for the Microsoft practice at Echo this year. Very quick rules of engagement for any of our webinars. We are recording and we will make sure that the recording is available to anyone who might want to watch it afterwards. Please feel free to just speak up or type questions in the chat if you have any. I've got a few colleagues from Echo here on the call as well, and I trust will also let me know if something pops up in the chat that I need to address. So feel free just to interrupt if I didn't see something. So, quick overview of what I'm planning to talk about. With this new planner, it's really the new planner in Teams, which is what they're calling it, because the focus is on the version of it that's available in Teams. We're going to quickly talk about what came before, because this is the case where it's really helpful to know what all was in the Microsoft ecosystem before to understand what it is they're doing with this new version. So we'll look at that quickly, and then we'll focus on the new planner in Teams. One of the main divisions that we are finding as we work with it a lot and other clients are starting to interact with it are basic plans versus premium plans. So we're going to talk a lot about those two types and the differences between them, and then look just briefly at, from the licensing side, what you actually need from Microsoft licensing in order to use basic plans and premium plans and their different capabilities. And then we'll spend some time at the end on the challenges we've seen so far interacting with the new planner and our recommendations and best practices, but it would also be great to hear anyone else that has had some experience with it or has some questions about it to speak up. Okay, so task and project management in Microsoft. As far as what came before, it was actually fun for me to look back and see what all has come before. The flagship product that's been around for a long time is Microsoft Project. I was able to find the logos going back to 1995. Project actually started in 1984. It's as old as Excel from Microsoft. So there's a lot of legacy. There's a lot of history of users in Project. It really defined a lot of the project management software space for a long time. And Project has continued to the present. There are still versions of Project. We'll talk a little bit about how those relate to present day planner. But that's one of the big tools for task and project management at Microsoft. Planner, which is this more lightweight version of task and plan management, has been around since at least 2013. I was able to find logos going back to 2013. It also still continues to exist with this little green logo, even though we've now got this new version that we're looking at in Planner, but that's another task and project management tool that you might have seen if you've been around in Microsoft. Shoot, I'm losing the name for it, Listopedia or something. Microsoft also developed this task list app called To Do, but they bought a very successful app and essentially repurposed it, as these big tech companies are prone to do. And I'm forgetting what that was called, Listopedia, maybe, something like that. But that became To Do, and that is a list app that has been available since 2017. And I put Outlook in there because it's really integrated with Outlook. That was where it was kind of pushed to use it. In fact, I'll just show quickly my Outlook view. If you see your normal Outlook view, this little thing right here is To Do. So you've got it in there whether you've ever used it or not. And that is another basically task management tool. And finally, I mean, what I think the most recent really game changer was the rollout of Teams, and Teams becoming so dominant in the space generally for team collaboration and working together. Teams has been around since 2017, but I'm sure we've all seen how prevalent Teams has become since COVID and remote working, since it developed more of the teams and channel structure, started taking on capabilities that other apps had, like Slack for chatting and meeting sharing and all that kind of thing. So Teams has just really, really grown and matured. And integrating all of this better is really what has been driving this development of the new planner. We want to still have these capabilities to do task management and connect it with Outlook, connect it back to the capabilities you're used to from project, but get it into this Teams environment that everyone really is working in so much right now for Microsoft. Any other Microsoft apps that people have used for task management or project management that you actually found useful or you didn't like? Great. There's the wrong thing there. If you think of any others as we go forward, there's a long list when you look up of all the history of apps and various things that have been developed in the Microsoft environment. So this new planner, and again, we properly call it Planner in Teams because the version that's new is, and the place you're going to be interacting with it first is actually through your Teams environment. And this is just a screenshot of what it looks like. Anyone in Teams, let me do this and move it over here. As you look in your Teams window, you can add Planner just as an app. If you click on your little plus sign for apps and Teams and search for Planner, that's going to be one that anyone with access to Teams is going to be able to add. I want to focus first on the plans themselves. We'll come back to this overall interface in a bit. But the two basic kinds of plans that you can create by just clicking on New Plan here, when you look at it, you see the options, or you may not see the options depending on your licensing. Everyone has the ability to create a basic plan, and people with some kinds of licensing can create a premium plan, and we'll come back to that. But let me see if I said anything else here. Yeah. This version that we're about to dive into was rolled out this year, 2024. It is very new. They started making announcements about it and everything late 2023, but the actual preview and ability to use it has only really been fully rolled out this year. Again, the idea is combining these capabilities of previous Microsoft apps, which these apps have not completely gone away in their old form, but this new Teams version is combining a lot of these capabilities. So the to-do checklist, the planner sort of task management, and then the project management version of what's been called Project for the Web in the past. Okay. Looking back at what it actually looks like in Teams, we'll start, like I said, with the basic plans. So the basic plan is going to look something like this within Teams. You've got a few different views. Some of these are going to be fairly familiar options. You can have a list of tasks. For basic plans, it's going to be essentially a set number of options for the columns that you can have. You can have title, assign to people, and these are going to be associated with their Microsoft profiles. Do a start date and a due date. Bucket is something that you can actually configure. You can name the buckets how you want. We'll see how to do that in a second. Progress is a set option. You can choose whether a task is not started in progress or completed. And priority, which is also a set list of options that you can choose for form. When you look at that same set of tasks in a board view, this is where you can define what are called buckets. So in this case, I had named my buckets after different project phases, but you could name these whatever you wanted, like whatever grouping made sense. Sometimes we do it more by like a deliverable, like the things that support a certain deliverable. So I've got deliverable 1, and I'm going to add tasks associated with that deliverable and assign it just for fun to Jason Lachelle since he's on this call. And then add that task. From here, you can rename the buckets, you can move them around, and you can add tasks the way I did. You can just go down the line and add tasks as however you like. From any of these views, you can also click into a task and see the more detailed view of the task. So you have the option to add a few more things here. You can add notes. You can add an attachment, which can be really useful. And you can also add checklist items, which are kind of like subtasks, if you're used to thinking about it that way, like task 1, task 2, task 3. And that's something that ends up being useful as another way to mark how much of a task has been done. When you have checklist items, then now it's going to start showing you 0 of the 3 tasks have been done. But if Jason checks one of them off, then it's going to give you the progress that 1 out of 3 subtasks have been finished. The other piece, which is available here, when you click into the actual details of the task, are what are called labels. And this is another piece that is completely customizable, and you can add multiples. So there's some suggestions here. I think this is from a previous plan. I've got something that's awaiting approval, but I also would like to add a label that it should be done by the project manager. So I'm going to add, I've now got these 2 labels here, and the nice thing now is I can start filtering or searching for these labels on tasks later. There is, just going through the rest of the views, there's a schedule view, which ends up kind of looking like your calendar. You need to have set your start date and end date in order to see this calendar view, but it's going to give you some automatic coloring. The greens are things that have already been marked as complete, red are things that are overdue, and gray are things that are coming up. Blue are things that are in progress or partially done. It's something that I had marked as in progress. You can click any of these to see the actual details. Without belaboring it too much, a lot of this functionality you're probably used to if you've used other like project management tools or task management tools. It's pretty standard capabilities here. You do have the option, let's see, the final view here is charts. This depends on how much information you've added, you know, sort of how useful these charts are, but they can be nice to see what's automatically generated. I've got whatever number of things, 6 tasks assigned to Caroline Henne, 1 assigned to Jason, a bunch assigned to Molly, and Molly has a couple overdue. She's not on this call to defend herself, but you can see some summary views like that easily from this charts view. Any questions or any feedback anyone has about the basic planner so far? We'll look at the premium plan next, but this is where you'd probably start if you were jumping into planner for the first time. Something else to note is that plans can be associated with teams. So if you've gotten in the weeds ever with Microsoft Teams structures and how that works, when you have a team and members of a team, that's how access can be managed to things associated with that team. And it's one of the nice features of Planner now being integrated well with Teams is that you can manage it as part of a team. It also can stay as a private plan. Like you can have it just something that you see or a certain list of people can see. But that's something to consider is how you're going to manage it, whether it's going to be right now I've got it shared with a Teams group that's public to my whole company. So I've got all these people in here, but I could turn this into something private or create a plan that had slightly different access. Yes, Kelly.
Is it associated with a channel within a team or just with the team as a whole?
That's a good question. It is associated with the team as a whole.
From a
However,
permission perspective?
from a permission perspective, yep. But you can add a plan as a tab on a channel if you want to have it as easy reference. So like this one, I've associated with the Microsoft Practice team group. It's like the group is the group of people that have access to this team. Because I've added it to this whole team, I can now add it as a tab. If I search for an app, I want to add a planner, it's going to look for existing plans for this team. And I think it's this one actually. It's going to show me the ones that have been shared with this team. And
Okay,
now
so you can have multiple plans per team.
you can have multiple plans per team, and they can be shared in this way with multiple channels within that team if you want to.
Awesome.
Cool. Good question.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay, let me come back out for a second to my slide and make sure I've showed you what I wanted to. Filter and grouping. Back out to this view. Filtering is going to work, kind of how you would expect. Like I would like to see from the same plan certain intervals, like everything that's due this week, everything that's due next week, and also everything that's due in the future. Everything that's late, and let me unselect everything so I only look at the things that are late. Once you start adding more labels, like if labels end up being something that you use, you can also filter by those and look at multiple labels as well to the extent that you need to. The final thing to look at, so right now this is grouped by that bucket idea that, essentially the card view. You can change the card view so that it's also done by tasks that are assigned to, oh, and we're still filtering it. We're looking at things that are assigned to that are late. So let me clear all the filters and then group them. Look at everything that's not started, in progress, completed. So that card view idea where you can group it and then move the cards back and forth as you need to will work with these basic plans as well. Okay. The thing to note is that for these basic plans, this is what we were just looking at as the Teams version, which you're not leaving Teams. You are in Teams interacting with this. You also can interact with it through the online, like the online version of the Microsoft Planner app. For Microsoft, for the basic plans, that is going to be at tasks.office.com. And this is going to look similar to what Planner looked like before for people that were using it before. This has not changed as much, this particular interface. There's a few more little options. I put a colorful background on. You can see it just updated with the labels and updates that I added through the Teams version. And this is where if you were like the project manager or the person responsible for this, you would have to come here occasionally to look at the overall details of the plan. You can change things if you need to, like the groups that have access to it. If you want to change the settings for notifications from the plan, that's going to be something that you do from the online version. But the key thing here is that this is located, the hub for online planner for basic plans is in tasks.office.com. That is important because premium plans are located somewhere else. So let's take a look at those next. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Premium plans. Same when you're in Teams, you can go exactly the same route. You can look at your planner app. You can open a premium plan or create a premium plan if you have the right license. And you'll see you've just got access to several more views up here. The big one that everyone was excited about is the Gantt view, where you can make dependencies and have parent tasks and subtasks that show up in a Gantt chart, because that is very useful when you're doing more robust project planning or longer projects. And just to show, we have this idea of parent tasks with subtasks. That was not available in basic plans. Basic plans are just lists of tasks that you can put into buckets if you need to, but it doesn't have the parent-child subtask capability. And it has the nice feature if you change something like my child task is now due on the 31st, which means that it's late, and it pushed out the dates of the parent task as well, which is a pretty, again, it's kind of standard functionality for this kind of project management, but no, that was not available in the basic plan. You also have this people view, which gives you a little bit of a summary for within a plan, what is going on for the people that you have assigned to things. I don't have that many people assigned to stuff in here. The goals capability, I haven't added any goals for this, but it's suggesting some goals. If you're using some other Microsoft applications like Viva Goals, you would be able to connect Viva Goals in here or connect them to a task. You can actually connect it to a task from the project plan. Like you set what the goal is, and if you want to connect it to the actual task in the project plan it's associated with, you can. Another feature, which we'll come back to, if you have a Copilot license, you can use Copilot with premium plans, not with the basic plan. And they've got some prompts here. I've played around with it some, and it's most useful for somewhat straightforward tasks, like please add subtasks, add these following subtasks to the plan. I didn't have as good an experience trying to create like a plan from scratch. It needs a lot of prompting, but I think that's the case with sort of AI and Copilot in general. You need to feed in some content before it gets smarter about how to make these things. If people have questions about that, we can talk about it a little bit more, but that is additional licensing you would need to have Copilot enabled for premium plans. Okay. The similar board view. There's a few more options. You can color your buckets, nicely, so you get that view in a premium plan. And the detailed view on tasks is more robust as well. If you click into this detailed view, you now will start seeing things like you could add a task to a sprint. You could calculate the effort involved for a task. You can start adding some custom fields. Like in this case, I added a custom column to indicate whether my task was a phase or a task or a subtask, which is something that we do as a standard part of project planning. You can still add attachments, which you could do in basic plans, but you can also add dependencies. I mentioned that quickly before, but that's a key functionality we like that is not available in basic plans. Something that I like is you can add whether a task depends on something, like if it depends on the previous one, but you could also, another column you could choose is it depending on something afterwards. If that's easier, this has to happen in order for this next thing to happen, or like whichever way makes more sense for the way you're putting out your tasks. There's also some of these other standard columns that they offer. Compared to the basic plan, there's just a longer list of columns you can use. A key thing though is that you can add a totally custom column. I showed that with the task type, but you could add any of these types. If you've worked with Microsoft Lists or Dataverse or one of those other data handling apps, that it's the same types of columns and things that you can add in those other Microsoft kind of database management tools. And this is, for more robust, complex projects, this can be really, really important to make sure that you're capturing the information that you need to be able to add a custom column or two. Talked about Copilot, subtask. Okay. So that's some of the cool additional features you have with premium plans. The experience is going to feel very similar within Teams. It's going to mostly look similar. And you can have a premium plan that someone with the right licensing creates and manages, but people within your organization can still see it in their planner, but they'll see it as a basic plan. They'll see the tasks, they'll see if they're assigned something, they'll see the dates, like these details. They won't have so many views to see. They'll essentially see the basic mode or the basic version of that plan. So that's nice. Like if you decide to use premium plans, you would not necessarily have to have everyone have that additional licensing.
So Caroline, from a use case perspective, that might be like project managers would be a good use case for having a premium plan, but then project team members that are just executing tasks don't really need that access. They can just go in and check off the tasks they're assigned.
Yep, exactly.
That's great.
Yep. And no matter what kind of plan, premium or basic, they all show up in these other sort of special planner in Teams views. These tabs up here actually are the ones that are essentially brand new to this kind of planner view. This is not as easy to see in those online versions. This is the Teams offering. So we have, and if you did use to do, as I looked more in to do, this is mimicking what to do is very good at in Outlook. To do will do this in your Outlook, but this is now doing same capabilities across all your plans and tasks and teams. The one that we love is this one called My Tasks. And I've got a ton of them because I've made a bunch of test projects and test plans. But as you can see, here's the plan. This is looking across every single Microsoft plan, premium or basic, that I've got that I have not completed and showing it to me with the due date. And I have all the same, I can sort by date to see what's actually due first or what's overdue first. I can, yeah, sort a little bit, but I can also from here just open the details and look directly at the task. This is when you can see this is create, so not some, yeah. So you may need to go directly to the premium plan to see all of the fields that are available, but you're still going to be able to see all the basic stuff. And something that we really love, you'll be able to just check it off from here. If you're like, oh yeah, I did that. Done. Don't have to go to the plan. Don't have to go anywhere else. You can just do it right here from this view, which is great. It also is going to pick up some things, like if you have emails that have been flagged, this is still pulling some from Outlook. So this is the kind of thing you'd want to look at and just see how useful it is to you. Like, this is not a view I use as much because I don't use Outlook for task management as much. But if you're used to flagging emails as a way to show that there's a task that needs to be done, then it is pulling those in. You also can just add private tasks for yourself. If you just want it as a checklist, kind of that the traditional idea of just a checklist, you can add your own private tasks and it's going to show up in your list. The other nice thing, you have the option from here to add to my day. And this is the way to really prioritize from all of your task lists. What are the things you actually need to do today? It's going to find anything that actually has a due date of today. And stick it on there. And then anything that you've marked, which is what I just did. Anything that you've marked as something you actually want to do today. Same idea, you can update it from here, you can mark it off from here, but a nice, really summarized view. And this is, like I said, a new view. Like this kind of roll up across teams, across everything that the Microsoft apps touch as far as tasks go. The one that I use a lot too is just my plans. The plans that I have something assigned to me, even if they've been shared from someone else or created by someone else. Like you can in Teams channels, you can also pin plans so that they show up here easily. So that's actually the place that I start most of the time when I'm going into Planner, is the view of my tasks and my plans of what do I have going on there. Sorry, I got a little diverted on that because I get excited about it, but I did want to quickly show when you're working in a premium plan, those actually do live online in a different location. They are built on top of Microsoft Project for the Web. And this is another piece that hasn't changed much. If you used Project for the Web, this interface is going to be very similar to what it was before. It's at project.microsoft.com. If I click on this, just the project hub, I get this view of all the projects. I'm shared them, but now they are also premium plans. And some of this nomenclature, they just haven't really updated yet because all these updates are so new from the Microsoft side. So looking at a premium plan from here, sorry, and this is a little slow to load, and this is there's not much to this plan, but the same views, same capabilities. And again, this will be the place if you are managing from a project manager perspective. If you own the plan, you'd have the option to delete it from here. You can manage the groups, that kind of thing. You can do some of that from the Teams view as well, but this is always the place you can look at if you're having trouble figuring out how to do something to manage a plan or a premium plan. Okay. It's online. Yep. Okay. So we talked about that. The thing that's nice about this structure for premium plans is that because they are part of Project for the Web, this data is actually stored in Dataverse, which is the Microsoft kind of big database tool. It's a premium capability. Like you may not have interacted with Dataverse much if you haven't done some of the premium capabilities are used in the Power Platform. But if you have used Power BI or Power Apps, you can easily access things that are built in Dataverse to make Power BI analytical views of business intelligence, or to make Power Apps that give you some automated workflows. If you've got a bunch of premium plans, you can find there is a list in Dataverse of every task that you have associated with a premium plan, which is awesome because then in Power BI, you can make a great view across all the plans that you have and get a view of, percentage wise, how many are late or past due, or which team is doing well with their updates, and what bottlenecks might be happening across projects. And this is also a relatively new capability. Microsoft hasn't really had great user-friendly ways to see tasks across projects, not just within projects, but across projects to be able to have that view. In the past, it's required a lot of Power Automate, Power App building out, but with this new structure, being able to access premium plans within Dataverse, it's going to be much easier to get some good analytical views of them. So that's kind of the overview of what is in Planner now. One of the challenges we're realizing, I mean, it's good and bad, is Microsoft is actually rolling these updates out like pretty continuously. I've been checking it sometimes day to day and finding new things like, oh, you didn't used to be able to see premium plan tasks in my day. Now you can. That was like maybe a couple of weeks ago. It switched on one day when I logged on. So I have been checking back a lot, and if you are starting to use it for the first time, it's worth keeping an eye on what Microsoft actually has as the roadmap for this app. Let me open it up. I think I've actually got it open already. Here we go. So this is the Microsoft 365 roadmap filtered to planner and product. And you can see they've still got five features that are in development, but a lot of these were rolled out. You can see January of this year, March of this year, April of this year. They have just been coming out, and they do update the blog, and you get some of these feature release notes sometimes, but sometimes you miss it, or you don't see it. So that's one thing to keep in mind as you start using it, is it's worth continuing to check back what they have officially rolled out. There are also yeah, the one of the things that is not out yet, and at the Microsoft conference this spring, we asked and asked and asked about this, and I've heard that it is coming, but portfolio capabilities within Planner itself. So I just said it's easier to get views across projects, but that would still require you looking in Power BI, like I said. They are working on portfolio views within Planner in Teams itself. And so the idea would be that you can look across 5 different projects and see that whole filtered view of things that are past due across all the projects within a department. Or I could look across all the projects for my team and see not just the ones assigned to me right now, but things that are not assigned to me but are affecting my team. So this is something we're really keeping an eye on. It says maybe March of next year, but I heard from someone that it may be more like the end of the summer, which would be awesome. So we'll let you know if we see something like that get rolled out. The other opportunity that again, it's so new, there aren't as many standard ways to do it yet, but really is because Planner is so integrated with Teams, and the push by Microsoft has been to get all of their apps better integrated. There's a lot of other Microsoft tools that it integrates really easily with, which is cool. I'll show you a couple. One is Microsoft Loop, which is also a new tool. My team's going to roll their eyes because I talk about Loop all the time. But Loop is this guy. Also a very new app. It's and on a basic level, kind of a note-taking app. It's for some people ends up being kind of like an enhanced version of OneNote. Oh, sorry, I'm logged into too many different places. There we go. Or like a wiki, where you can just have a page open, start typing in it, stick in a meeting agenda, or stick in, a brainstorming session about whatever you need to. The cool part about this page is it's easy to insert components from a lot of other places. So if I do my little backslash and loop and scroll down, I can easily select a plan from planner to insert. And when I insert that plan, it's not just a link to that plan or opening the plan in another tab. I'm actually interacting with this plan, like in real time. I'll check off another task for Jason. He now has 2 out of 3 done. When I go back and look in planner itself, whatever plan that was, sorry, now I've forgotten what plan it was. Yeah, he's got 2 out of 3 tasks done. But I was actually, I never had to leave that loop page when I was updating it. So that loop integration is one that we're finding to be really useful. This can also easily be inserted into an Outlook email where you send someone an email, and rather than saying, hey, let's see if I can, let me just open my Outlook one more time. I'm gonna do a new email. I have to actually start typing in the body of the email to get it to show up, but I have this option to insert a loop component from here, or I can actually do a link. I'm clicking around too much on this. Sorry, let me come back. From here, I could insert the loop component directly. Start creating a list, a task list. And this is actually going to create, same idea, a component that you can interact with live from the email. And it could be a plan. It could be a plan task list. And the person that receives this email doesn't have to email you back, doesn't have to go anywhere else. They can just start typing directly in the email, and it's going to update the plan exactly the way that I just demonstrated. So Loop is one of the ones we're excited about using in conjunction with Planner. Another one, I won't show it too much, but I teased it a little bit, was the Copilot capabilities with premium plans. You have these options to create a plan from scratch. Like I said, may need more prompting. I actually tried it. I inserted the text from an Echo proposal that we've sent out to someone and to see what it came up with. And it did an okay job. It created some tasks. It at least gave me a starting point. It essentially populated a task list that I could then edit. What I do like about how what Copilot is good at is taking something that exists, like this plan, and give you some essentially high value information from it. Like, I want a status report for this plan. It's looking over the plan. It'll take a minute to generate. But when it's working with something that already exists and has a lot of content in it, that's where it can really save you some time for getting good information out of Copilot. We'll let it keep working for a little bit. And was there a chat? Jason said, it's great to see Microsoft putting so much into the online versions of Project and Planner because the desktop version does not work. Is that true for all Macs? Like, you just can't use the desktop version of, do you use the desktop versions of Teams?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just Project, the native online
Okay.
version that so many organizations are still working in because it's been around a lot longer than I knew. Thanks for that history lesson. You just can't get that app on a Mac natively.
I see. Yeah. And I think there's a little, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the path is forward for Project Desktop, like the app version of Project, because that is still a separate component from what all we've been looking at. That's the really robust version of Project with tons of project management capabilities, and what kind of the older model, if you're using the Project Desktop, it may only be the project manager that's updating and maintaining a project plan. The focus of the new planner in Teams and these premium plans is that it's very collaborative. You know, anybody can be assigned a task across a who has access to it. Like anybody can be assigned a task, anybody can see their tasks on the My Task, anybody can update them quickly without a project manager having to track each individual task. So it'll be interesting to see how, you know, sort of the life cycle of those desktop versions for more robust projects. Coming back to Copilot, you see they did generate a status report for this plan. It pulled in a lot of the key things like the kickoff phase is 21% complete with 32 hours of effort completed and 72 remaining. This is all information that does exist in this plan and that you could poke around and find, but it's good at giving you summaries for things like that. Before we, so we've got, I'll try to take just a couple more minutes and then leave any extra time that we have. I've mentioned this and it can be a little confusing, like what Microsoft licensing you actually need. So from what we've looked at, using that Teams planner where you can look at my day, my tasks, the things assigned to you in your plan, really you just need to have Teams access, like that your company or your business is on a plan that you have access to Teams, and that app will be included. Same for interacting with those basic plans. Just to be able to view them and update the tasks, you just need Teams access, and anyone can also create a basic plan. It's when you get into those premium modes, the premium plans, that you need to have additional licensing. In order to actually create a premium plan, you need to have a minimum of Project Plan 3, which is a little bit slightly more expensive app. It would be something that your project manager would have. However, if you already have Project for the Web licensing, then that's included. Like this is the plan. Yeah, it's going to depend a little bit on what you're coming from, but there's a chance you've already got folks on this if they're already using Project in some other form. Updating tasks in the premium mode where you can see all the premium views and still interact with it, you can actually have a slightly lower level license, which is called a planner plan 1. But the limitation there is you can't create a premium plan. But like we said, anybody can interact with a premium plan, even if you're only seeing the quote basic view of it, and anybody can see those things from the planner app in Teams for what's assigned to them. Also, I just wanted to note, I just updated this week, checking on the information I have about licensing. This is also sort of this is something that's good to check with your own Microsoft service provider or whoever you normally interact with for licensing, because it also has been changing as these new features and capabilities are rolling out. So my final slide here, challenges and recommendations. Some of it is what I just mentioned. Microsoft is rolling out updates in real time, and they're really treating the whole Microsoft 365 as like an ecosystem that's all connected to each other. So you get an update to some new app like Loop, and it has a nice benefit for something like Planner, but you're not necessarily going to see that announcement about how Loop is helping Planner. So it's not a bad idea to just generally follow the Microsoft 365 roadmap developments, because a lot of these apps are really enhancing each other. The challenge, as we said, developing views across plans and projects. It's possible for premium plans based on that Dataverse structure that I mentioned, but it's not yet possible for basic plans. As far as I can tell, this is something I'm trying to find out better, but the data for basic plans seems to be stored in another place. I think it's Azure. And so it does require, it's possible to get it, but it requires some custom like API work and stuff to get views across, but we're hoping that portfolio view will be coming soon as the roadmap promises. The other thing that I've found just for myself and working with clients is, because these apps all connect to each other and they have a lot of these cool capabilities, it can be hard to manage the notifications and communication expectations for all these things. Suddenly you find yourself, like I'm a good example, I find myself assigned to all these tasks. my case is funny because a lot of these are test. So I need to go through and clear out some of my test projects, but I did actually lose something that came in a meeting. I realized so I added it to my day. I was like, oh, I was supposed to review an Echo workflow diagram. I didn't even notice because have sort of been glossing over this particular view of my tasks. You also will get email notifications if you're assigned to a task. You will get email notifications if you're mentioned in a loop page, that capability that I showed, unless the settings are changed on the admin side, like within the plan itself from project.microsoft.com or task.microsoft.com. Or I think an administrator has to change loop notifications. But it's worth thinking through if you're starting to use this or rolling it out to your team. You just need to think about or make a decision or recommendation to your team about what notifications you're going to have and what your communication expectations are, because you're going to get multiple ones initially from the Microsoft side. Let me open it up. Any other questions or observations about Planner from the group? Y'all have had great questions so far. So,
Caroline, I love that Microsoft implemented the I think they called it My View or My Tasks in Planner, so you can see all the things that have been assigned to you across various projects. And it was in like a gridish view. Do you know if there's an ability to view that in a board view?
that's a good question. You'd have to go to the actual plan to see the board view. But if you go to the plan, like this one, this task 9 that I've got assigned from, let's see which one I have. If you go to a particular plan, you can filter based on, you'd have to, essentially it's a couple of steps. I filter based on things assigned to me, and then I look at it in a board view.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be from within a
Gotcha.
plan. It's not going to be across all your tasks. That's a great question. That'd be a nice capability.
But you can get there. That's awesome. I know a lot of
You
people
can,
are
yeah.
allergic to this type of view is the reason I ask.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's fair. I get it. Awesome. Well, let me just share our last slide. I'm sure we'll have an update version of this soon because we are officially Echolocity now, but this is just our normal info. Feel free to look us up, Echolocity Echo Consulting on LinkedIn, Facebook. We have a very active YouTube channel that we are updating all the time. And we would love to connect if you have questions about Planner, Microsoft, or project management in general. We love to talk about that stuff. Thanks very much, everyone. I'll hang on for a couple of minutes, but that concludes our session today on new features in Microsoft Planner.